Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Dev from The Wandering Soul. Once again, I want to thank all of you for watching this with me, for taking the time out to watch this with me. So today the video that we are going to watch is my favorite subject or favorite topic of interest in terms of recreational research, and that is ancient Indian art and architecture. So the video that we are going to watch today is on the world famous Kailash Temple in Ellora, Maharashtra. Why is this temple so famous? What is it about this temple that continues to mystify people from all around the world, not just India? And it's sad that in spite of the impact it has had on all those who have been fortunate enough to have seen it in person, in live, or even on TV, it still continues to be overshadowed by many other more ambitious structures. But what is it about this temple that is so mystifying? What is it about it that is so satisfying in a way, emotionally? So let's watch this video and find out more about this temple.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. The enigmatic Kailasa Temple at the Ellora caves in Maharashtra, India has fascinated researchers for centuries.
Just look at the beauty of that. Look at the scale and the beauty of that structure. Look at the scale.
It's often overlooked, or at least overshadowed, by sites such as the Giza Pyramids of Egypt, Stonehenge of England, the Mexican Pyramid of the Sun, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, and so on.
That's
very
true.
Certainly one of humanity's greatest architectural
Absolutely.
achievements. With Stonehenge, people dragged huge rocks and stood them upright. With the Kailasa Temple, they removed hundreds of thousands of tons of rock and shaped the resulting structure to perfection. Mainstream scholars claim the ancient caves in this region date back to between the 5th and 10th centuries AD, but many believe they are far older, being not hundreds but thousands of years old. The fact is, nobody understands how this particular temple was built, as it clearly exhibits a far more advanced technology than what we are told the people of India had between the 5th and 10th centuries. It is cut out of solid basalt rock, leaving this incredible structure that totally boggles the mind. It is thought to symbolize Mount Kailash, the Himalayan abode of Lord Shiva, one of the most important Hindu deities, and it is just one of 34 cave systems that has been excavated from the surrounding bedrock in this region. This particular temple is thought to have been built during the reign of Krishna I, a ruler of the Rashtrakuta Empire in the 8th century AD, taking just 18 years to complete. It is estimated that a total of 200,000 to 500,000 tons of rock were excavated out of the vertical cliff. Another mystery is where the basalt went. It seems to have vanished without a trace, along with the tools used to build it. Based on the accepted history, if people worked a 12-hour day every single day for 20 years to build the temple, they would have had to dig out no less than 20,000 tons of stone a year, which equates to 1,666 tons a month, or 55 tons a day, or 4 to 5 tons every single hour.
Wow.
And then, of course, it had to be taken
unthinkable.
away.
Even in today's times,
I
don't think that will be possible, honestly speaking.
Fit for a god.
Look at the sheer detail of the
It
carvings.
was excavated
Absolutely,
vertically, so that it was
absolutely
possible
brilliant.
to achieve the end product. They state that the builders started at the top and worked downwards, carving out one of the most fascinating ancient temple complexes on Earth. And as it was a bedrock excavation, there was zero room for error, and on inspection, no errors were made. This is sophistication to the highest order. But what did the builders use to create it? What tools were at their disposal? How did they manage to do it? And why has the knowledge been lost, if indeed the mainstream is correct in their dating? The mainstream attest that hammers, chisels and picks were the only tools that were used, but this isn't limestone or soft sandstone, it is crystalline volcanic igneous rock. According to a medieval legend told by the Marathi people of Maharashtra, the Kailasa Temple was actually built within a week. It states that a queen whose husband was very ill prayed to Shiva, asking the god to heal her husband, and in return, the queen would build a temple and dedicate it to him, and fast until it was completed. The queen's prayers were answered, and she fulfilled her vows, and as the architect, known as Kailasa, was so concerned about the queen's fast, he He said he could carve the structure within a week, and legend says he kept to his word. According to H.P. Blavatsky, many of the ancient temples in the region date back much further into history than what scholars believe today. And M.K. Davalika, a notable Indian historian and archaeologist, suggests that the Kailasa Temple has been adapted and carved by different people over a long period of time. Like many ancient structures, he believes there are many phases of work that gives it its final appearance. One of the pieces of evidence that historians use to date it is an engraving on a perforated window in the west wall of one of the caves, in which we find an incomplete Sanskrit inscription of Brahmi script. It does give the genealogy of the Rashtrakuta dynasty, but all this proves was that the cave was there in the 8th century, not that it was created at that time. Many of the inscriptions in this region have been weathered badly, and there are no documented claims to its creation. Like the Great Pyramid of Egypt, which is not inscribed with the identity of the builder, the Kailasa Temple offers the same problem for historians. Whatever the true history behind it, the resulting Kailasa Temple is a masterpiece worthy as a tribute to the gods. As well as the accomplishment of creating the structure as a whole, many of the
Now
individual
this particular
sculptures
carving,
are breathtaking works of art in
I
their
am
own
positive,
right.
I have read that it's not from the Kailash temple, it's from the Khajuraho temple. So I think some of the clips
Traditional features
have been
that are found
substituted.
in all temples dedicated to Shiva. There are 100-foot tall pillars of basalt, and at the base of the structure we see exquisitely carved elephants, created to give the impression that the whole structure is being supported on the backs of these magnificent beasts. Furthermore, we also find scenes from two major Hindu epics, and in the southeastern gallery of the temple there are 10 panels depicting the different avatars of the Hindu god Vishnu. The temple also has bridges, a rainwater harvesting system, an intricate drainage system, hidden underground passages, secret peepholes that can be used to hide and then spy on people, balconies, as well as huge staircases which branch off into multiple levels of the structure. Remember, it is carved from the bedrock, with no stone blocks added. All of this had to be planned carefully before work even began, and there are no clear errors. It is truly a work of perfection. There is another legend that dates back to the Mughal period, which mentions the structure and states that during the reign of Emperor Aurangzeb, an attempt was made to destroy the temple. Apparently, 1,000 workers were sent to dismantle it, and after 3 years it suffered just minimal damage in the form of a few broken or disfigured statues. On realizing it was impossible to destroy the temple, apparently the emperor gave up.
Interesting.
We know that the Kailasa
I want to read more about that. I hope I can find the source of that information.
But it is also worth noting that nearby there are also many carved ruins which are submerged beneath the waves, and these may date back to the last ice age, when sea level was 100 meters lower.
Kind of like Dwaraka. Dwaraka is also
Cleopatra's
submerged in the
fantastic
ocean. So.
book, Underworld. Earlier, I mentioned the temple's connection to Mount Kailash, the supposed Himalayan home of Lord Shiva. The mountain is apparently unascendable, and no human has ever scaled this sacred site, and therefore, as you can imagine, many legends surround it. A number of researchers, scholars and scientists believe that the top part of the mountain is in actual fact the remnants of a truly ancient pyramid. Mohan Bhatt, a Sanskrit scholar based in Mumbai, says the Ramayana refers to the sacred mountain as a pyramid. Some ancient texts refer to it as the cosmic axis, or the stairway to heaven. Some say that Lord Shiva himself is buried inside it, and that the area is the true city of the gods. Russian scientist Ernst Muldashev went on an expedition with geologists, historians and physicists to learn more about the secrets of Mount Kailash. The team came to the conclusion that it is a massive ancient man-made pyramid surrounded by many smaller pyramids. Muldashev believes it was built by an ancient and advanced people who knew about things such as the law of subtle energy. He says that the mountain is the most important part of a system of ancient monumental structures, directly connecting sites such as the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Some researchers believe that the same long-forgotten ancient people that built the pyramid of Mount Kailash also built the Kailasa Temple, and that that their relationship in name is not coincidental. Whatever the true history of the Kailasa Temple, there is certainly something wrong with the archaeological interpretation of this site. Either our understanding of the technology of the 8th century is completely wrong, or the time frame attributed to the Kailasa Temple is wrong by hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Yeah, I believe the time frame.
However it was
We are
done, it is
we are
undoubtedly
very much
a
underestimating
tribute to
how
ancient
old
Indian
these structures are.
craftsmanship and aesthetics on an exceptionally grand and breathtaking scale. Apparently, there are thousands and thousands of ancient Sanskrit texts still waiting to be translated, so maybe the secret of the Kailasa Temple is waiting for us to find. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.
So, okay, so I have a few questions and kind of ideas that are like floating around. One thing is, I'm as an Indian, obviously, I'm very proud. I'm very honored and proud of what the legacy that we have, our ancient cultures, our ancient civilizations have left behind. This is just one of many hundreds and probably thousands of such beautiful monuments that have been left behind, not only in India, and some of them like in Indonesia, like Cambodia, and it's mind-boggling, like the influence that our culture, the way our culture has spread around Southeast Asia. So the sheer beauty of the structure is just awe-inspiring. And for those of you who have been like fortunate enough to have seen this in person, please mention in the comments below like what you felt, and any legends or stories that somebody, the locals or any of the tour guides might have told you about the temple itself. Please to mention. I would be really happy to read your experiences of visiting that place. So because for me, when I look at the structure, the sheer spirituality that is bursting out of the structure, it's hitting me like it's inescapable, like how spiritual, there is a spiritual energy about that place that is very rare, and that is something that's really beautiful. So please to mention in your comments your experiences and what you felt. So that is one more thing which I feel about our ancient Indian monuments, because when these monuments that are created, of by, when I say created, they are not built, but they are planned, or they are designed, or they are brought into idea in the form of an idea by emperors or kings of the time, and in most cases, given the fact that they are also humans like us, there's a bit of an ego always involved. Each king wants to leave or build something that is more bigger, that is more ambitious, that is more immense, than his predecessors, so that people will think of him as, oh, what a great emperor, what a great king, but so the focus is always on the scale, like if you look at the great pyramids of Egypt, or any other big structures, the focus is always on the scale, how huge, how ambitious the project is, but this doesn't seem to be that kind of a structure. A lot of our Indian structures are mind-boggling because of the detail with which they are made, the sheer spiritual devotion, the sheer spirituality that goes into the creating those monuments, and the intricate carvings, so scale wise they might not be the biggest in the world, they might not match the great pyramids or the huge cathedrals in Europe, some of the other more famous structures, but in terms of the devotion, in terms of the intricacies, I think they are unrivaled in my opinion. So that is something which I really find refreshing about our ancient architects. The focus is on the god, the focus is on the spirituality, the spiritual aspect, rather than on the king or the emperor who created that. So that is something which I am really I really find it refreshing in that sense. And I feel the same way about this temple as well. So now couple of things, like I think he mentions some books like written by foreign authors, and also about Russian, Russian, I don't know whether he's not a scientist as such, but I believe somebody who actually who tried to go to Mount Kailash, and who tried to search about it, research it, go there and actually study it. So I'm not sure familiar about his work, so I don't want to jump to conclusions one way or the other. But one thing is, I feel the timeline that is associated with the construction of many such monuments is, the dating is, I feel like, very much misplaced, because for example, like the construction of this temple. Okay, now there are two ways. Like, if, I'm just throwing out ideas. So if if you feel like, or if you disagree with me, please feel free to mention that. But a couple of ideas that I'm jumping out is, there are two ways of I think going about this. One is like, the one that we believe right now. It's the top-down excavation method in which we carve out of a single rock. So the other way is like, I think if it's possible to actually have some kind of a stone melting technology, then I think it's possible, like, because this is volcanic rock, so basically what it means is, if you are able to heat up the rock to very high temperatures like lava, you can actually make it soft, and you can actually mold it as per your design. So if there is some kind of if it's possible that there was some kind of a rock melting technology that the ancient civilizations had, which has been forgotten. And the reason I'm mentioning this idea, the reason this idea strikes me, is because there are other temples. Like, for example, I saw this musical pillar temple, like they have this chains. And the Meenakshi temple, I think, they have these chains made out of stone, and the chains are made out of a different kind of stone, and they're attached to the main temple, which is made out of a different kind of stone. So that is possible only if you're having some kind of a rock melting technology, because making chain links out of rock, you cannot carve out chain links, because if they move around, like, that means like they have been joined together after after building the, after basically inserting one rock through other. So they had to have some kind of a rock melting technology to build those chains. So when I think of those structures, I believe that it's possible that we had some kind of a rock melting technology which we lost later on, and that could explain one way in which this temple has been built. So I have no idea, I have no proof of that, but that's something that has struck me in terms of one of the ways this temple could have been built. The second thing is like about the so the second thing is, some people have mentioned that, like, I have read the comments that this area was probably submerged under water, and because of that they were actually initially soft. The rocks were initially soft, and so over time they hardened and they became like, like whatever form they are in today. I am not totally convinced about that, because from what I did research, based on my research, water levels were much lower back, thousands of years back than they are now. And there are a couple of proofs of this. One is the city of Dwaraka, which has been submerged, which is like submerged off the coast of Gujarat right now, which means thousands of years back, or tens of thousands of years back, that had to have been on the ground. And as the sea level rose, it probably became submerged. So that is one indication to me of the fact that water levels were lower than now. And second thing is, there is a land bridge that connected India with Sri Lanka, and there is also a land bridge that connected Asia with North America through Alaska. It's called the Bering Bridge, and it has been theorized that was the bridge over which humans moved or migrated from Asia to North America. That bridge is also now submerged under water. So I think it's very hard to believe that this rock was made soft because it was submerged in the water. So I feel like either it was carved out, and if it was carved out, I think our age, the timeline is very much incorrect or out of value, because I don't think this is 700 to 800 AD. I think this goes much further, and we are not sure, because our age measuring technology of rocks is not that accurate as for bones or as fossils. So I'm a little bit skeptical of the timeline they're mentioning. And I also read I read in one of the history books that when the Rashtrakuta king Krishna the First, when the creation of this was finished during his time, he exclaimed like, "Oh, how was it that I created this?" He himself was overawed by what the outcome of the temple. So I will be interested to know like more about such kind of legends that people might be knowing about, those who have gone to that place. So, and also it's interesting that he mentioned about the main Kailash temple in the Himalayas, and that is something like he is saying like the Russian the explorer, he thinks it's a man-made pyramid, I'm not totally convinced of that either. It's possible, but I'm not totally convinced because there is no evidence for me to be able to actually believe that right now. It might be true, it might not be true. But one thing I'm thinking aloud is, could it be that that is the Mount Meru? Because he mentioned that the ancient texts believed that that was the central axis of the, of the heavens or of the universe, like, as far as the earth is concerned. And so for us, like, Mount Meru was once considered in the Hindu legends as it was considered as the central axis of the earth, and that's where the churning of the ocean took place to get the Amrit. And Shiva, the Lord Shiva, he consumed the poison that came out of the churning. And Mount Kailash is also known to be the abode of Lord Shiva. The reason I'm throwing this idea out is, it's kind of there is a little bit kind of proof that the Himalayas were once under the ocean, because they found like fossils of fish, of fish on top of the Himalayas, like many of mountains of the Himalayas, and which kind of gives evidence to the theory that the Himalayas were once submerged under the ocean, and when India collided with the mainland Asia, that's when it came out of the ocean and into the sky. So if that were true, is it possible that Mount Meru, or is Mount Kailash, which was once submerged in the ocean many millions of years back? And if that is the case, it's possible that some of these structures are like a lot older than what we believe they are. Like, if the story of the Himalayas being submerged, or if the theory of the Himalayas being submerged under the ocean is true, and if the theory that Mount Kailash was part of the Himalayas even before, is Mount Meru, if Mount Kailash is actually part of Mount Meru. So please feel free to comment on, like, whether I'm going wrong somewhere, or whether my timelines or whether my theories are totally outlandish. I would like to hear your opinions about the same. But I'm glad that you guys took the time out to watch this with me, and this is probably one of my favorite subjects. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye.